everyone, and welcome to Kay's Cakes, the show where I veganize your favorite recipes. Today we're getting back into the MCU Bake-a-Thon with one of the films that I think started bringing some comedy into the Marvel movies, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy. So today's recipe is going to be a cherry cola cake with a galaxy mirror glaze, and the reason I chose this recipe is that Starlord and Guardians of the Galaxy have a lot of 80s references and, nods to the 80s. Cherry cola actually came out in the 80s and it was really popular, and then the mirror glaze is going to kind of be like a galaxy. So it's like the 80s wrapped in space, which I think is really in keeping with Star-Lord's character. For this recipe, you need flour, sugar, baking soda, vegan butter, cherry cola, baker's chocolate, egg replacer, plant milk, apple cider vinegar, vanilla extract, vegetable shortening, cocoa powder, powdered sugar, condensed coconut milk, agar-agar, food coloring. So, we're going to just start with the cake, which is going to be the chocolate cherry cola. First thing I'm going to do is preheat my oven. Oven to 350. And then I gotta also get my cake pans prepped, so we're going to use two 9-inch round pans. And I'm going to put my parchment rounds on the bottom. And then I also want to give them a good spray with some baking spray, make sure the cakes come out nicely. The next thing we gotta do is make a pseudo buttermilk. So I've done this in a couple other episodes. It's really simple. I'm gonna take half a cup of our plant milk, whatever plant milk you prefer. There's half a cup, and then you're going to add 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. Typically just adding any kind of acid to milk will create a sort of buttermilk. Apple cider vinegar just really doesn't have a high flavor profile. So 1 tablespoon, little spill there, of apple cider vinegar. I'm just going to leave that there for a minute. And then the other thing we have to do is get our Fegg ready. So we're going to make 2 fake eggs. So that will be 2 tablespoons of egg replacer with 4 tablespoons of water. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to live there for now. Alright, so we got our buttermilk, we got our egg, and now it's time to get the dry ingredients together. Let's start with my big bowl. I'm gonna have 2 cups of flour. So there's 1, there's 2, and I'm also gonna have 2 cups of sugar. There's 1, and there's 2. 1 teaspoon of baking soda. There we go. So there's our dry ingredients. Just give them a little whisk. Okay, great. Now I'm going to shift over to the stove, and we're going to combine the butter, the soda, and the chocolate into a sort of syrup. Alright, so this is most of the liquid ingredients. I'm gonna put in 1 cup of vegan butter that I've already cut into cubes. So 1 cup is the same as 2 sticks. It's a lot of butter. Just throw it in there. And then I'm also gonna add 3 tablespoons of baker's chocolate, which is about 1.5 ounces. So 4 squares is 1 ounce, and then 2 squares is the half. So 6 squares of the baker's chocolate. And 1 cup of your cherry cola. And we're gonna bring this just to a boil. add this to my flour mixture. I'll stir this all together until all the flour mix is wet. In a smaller bowl, put together our buttermilk mix. And I'm also going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And make sure these are all nice and combined. And then just add it to the rest of the cake batter. Alright, now that feels like the right consistency. Now we're just going to pour this into the cake pans that are already prepared. Try to make them as even as possible. It's an interesting color. And these are going to go in the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes. So the extra carbonation from the soda should help it lift as well as the baking soda. I'm going to tidy my workstation just for a minute and then we'll get back to you with the frosting. So the frosting for this is going to be a chocolate buttercream. I've made buttercream quite a few times on the show, but I haven't made a chocolate buttercream. So I'm just gonna take my regular recipe and add a little bit of cocoa powder to it. So the first thing is we'll need half a cup of vegan butter, so another stick of butter, and half a cup of vegetable shortening, which is half a stick, because shortening is much larger than butter. Now the reason I cut it like this with the shortening is because a regular buttercream would just be all butter, but vegan butter is clearly made differently, right? And depending on what brand you use, it can be different oils that have different consistency. I found a lot more success when I use half butter, half shortening instead of just all vegan butter. I'm gonna cream these. I'm gonna mix these with my hand mixer. All right, and then to this, you're going to add 3/4 of a cup of cocoa powder. 1, 2, 3. So 3/4 of a cup of cocoa powder and 3 cups of powdered sugar. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna add just a splash of plant milk. And the great thing about buttercream is if it's too runny, you can add more powdered sugar, and if it's too firm, you can add more milk. That is a lovely consistency. Chocolate buttercream, amazing. Last thing is just 2 teaspoons. 2 teaspoons of vanilla. 1, 2. Great, we'll just mix that in. All right, and that is ready to go. Just need to wait for the cakes to bake. And then we also need to let the cakes cool down before putting frosting on. I'm gonna wait for my cakes to bake. I'm gonna clean up a little bit and then we'll come back. We'll put the frosting on, and then we'll do the mirror glaze. All right, so my cakes are baked and cooled. I let them cool for about 35 minutes. So we're just gonna put some buttercream between these two layers. Try to flip this on there. Flipping cakes like that always makes me nervous. But there you go. There's your 2 layers. Looks like a big whoopie pie. And so the only thing left to do is the mirror glaze. But while you're doing that, you're gonna put your cake in the freezer. So I'm actually gonna wrap this up with plastic wrap. Okay. So for the mirror glaze, you'll need to have a double boiler going and also a separate saucepan. So I really am just using every dish I have right now. To start with the double boiler, so I just have a little pot of water going right here. And what I'm gonna do is take my can of condensed coconut milk, and I only wanna use 3.5 ounces. So I'm actually just gonna measure it out on the food scale because the whole can is 7.4. So that's too much. I'll put that bowl right on top. And with the condensed coconut milk, we're gonna do 3/4 of a cup of sugar. 1, 2, 3. And 100 milliliters of water, so just over 1/3 cup of water. I'll wait for that to all melt together. Then, in the other pan, I'm also gonna add a little splash of water. This is gonna be on a low heat. So let's turn that way down as low as we can go. The second pan is to dissolve the agar powder. So agar is a gelatin substitute. And gelatin is what gives a mirror glaze its shine. So I just put 2 teaspoons in with the water and we're gonna wait for that to dissolve. So see, now it's all thick, sort of like a gelatin would be. Now, I wanna introduce the coconut creamy goodness to the agar mix kind of gently. So I'm just gonna take a spoonful and mix it in. And then take another spoonful. And we'll do one more. Combine it all together. So if you're seeing lumps, you might want to use an immersion blender, just to be sure you don't have any. And what I'm going to do next is run it through my sieve to get any air bubbles out. We're going to sieve the mirror glaze to make sure there's no bubbles in it. Just make sure everything is nice and smooth. And now, we want to separate it into as many different bowls as you're using different colors. So I've got 1, and I'm going to add, I need 4 more. I'm going to separate this into 5. Don't need too much of each, so I want to keep some in this big bowl. Ugh, making a mess. And our main color is, I'm using Chef Master, which I searched up and they are completely cruelty-free, because previously I have used just, you know, whatever I can find at Michael's or Safeway or whatever. And, you know, there's a lot of stuff about if food coloring is or is not vegan, so I'm just going with a reputable brand here. I've never seen them in stores, so I did have to order these online. But it came with lots of fun colors. In my big bowl, I'm going with a mix of a royal blue, ooh, and a black, and this is going to be the base of the galaxy. Just a couple drops of the black. Ooh, I like that. That's nice. The next one is going to be just the navy blue. Our next one is going to be a light blue. The fourth one is violet. Ooh, that's like a dark purple. That's fun. And the last one is going to be, we're just gonna have a little bit of pink in our galaxy. Now you can choose whatever colors you want for your galaxy. These are just some of my favorites. All right, our very last one, pink. Come on, one more go. There you go. Ooh, that's a fun pink, interesting. It's not very bright. Now in order to do this, very carefully, we have our main bowl of navy blue and our 4 smaller bowls. I'm just gonna put them all back into the main thing, but don't mix it. Just try to swirl it around a little bit. It's gonna be pretty. As time passes, I'm feeling more confident about it because it looks more solid. And our little bit of pink. I'm also gonna swirl it around with a knife just a little bit. Really get some nice dimension going. Moment of truth, right? We're gonna pour this right over the cake. Ooh. So it's a little hard to see, but there is some blue swirls in there. It's definitely shiny, so that's what we wanted. I am missing it a little bit on the sides, but that's okay. First time making a mirror glaze, I'd say that turned out pretty good. Okay, we got one final touch. Now I'm gonna take my white and make some stars. So the way I'm gonna do that is that I'm just gonna put a little bit of the food coloring into a small bowl. That's actually a lot of food coloring, but whatever. And I'm gonna take one of my clean forks and just kind of flick at it. And if you want, you can do this with yellow, you can do this with other colors. Ta-da! So she's not perfect, but she looks pretty damn good. And that is all. That is Starlord's Cherry Cola Chocolate Cake with Galaxy Mirror Glaze. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Comment down below a recipe you'd like to see me try to veganize. Subscribe if you want more of the MCU Bake-a-Thon and other vegan recipes. I also have a Patreon that's in the description down below. All the money from Patreon goes towards my baking ingredients and equipment to make the show better. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.